Okay, welcome to our new show. This is War Room Battleground. We're going to be live to go to Michael Yon, who's been with the truckers. I want to give some perspective of why we're doing this. We felt we needed to add another hour. The simple reason is that we're living in historic times. You know, there are decades in which nothing happens, and then there are months in which decades happen. And right now, we're in the middle of a fourth turning. There's no doubt about it. And so what we're trying to do is show the details and get you down to the down ticket ballots and get you to all the, the congressional races, everything that's important from school boards to a precinct committee to the election boards to the nitty gritty of what it's going to take to really this November. Well, we have an opportunity at the ballot box to really take down the Democratic Party. So I want to go. Do we have Michael Yon up? We got Michael Yon. We're to Michael Yon. Michael Yon's he's the great combat correspondent. Michael has been with the truckers now since the very beginning in Barstow, California. He's going to take a couple of admin days because he's telling me, hey, they're about to dig in there in Hagerstown. Michael, tell us what happened today and kind of the change of, I don't want to say mood, but these guys came over, the men and women came over on a 70-mile or 80-mile convoy. Then it got there, Hagerstown, they had a huge rally on Saturday, had all the doctors there, talked about all the mandates. Then yesterday they did 2 loops around the Beltway, and people should understand that one of the loops was so big that the tail touched the teeth, right? And so today they went around just with their rigs, and now you're telling me, hey, you think they're dug in for the long haul here. Michael Yon, combat correspondent. Last time we saw you was down the Darien Gap till you went to Barstow. What's going on here?
Hey, Steve. Yeah, they're clearly digging in for the long haul, and I've been on this for more than 2 weeks. Of course, this is day 13, and I got there early for reconnaissance in Barstow area, and it's very clear that they're going to dig in for a longer fight, longer struggle to make their voices heard. It's very peaceful. When I say fight, as you know, it means struggle. They are getting more and more attention from mainstream media. Of course, I saw Washington Post there this morning, so that's probably not going to be accurate, but they are getting attention from there. There was quite a few mainstream people there in the morning in Hagerstown, Maryland today, and they're clearly digging in for something longer and more extended as people come to see them and hear their voices. They've come all the way across the United States, paid huge amounts of time and lost revenue from not working, but somebody's got to fight for our rights, and the truckers and many other people are taking that call, and they're doing it. I've been very proud to cover them, and it's interesting too that many people there are watching War Room. By the way, often when I'm live there, the people literally be watching on their phones and come over and say hello. So it's very important also the coverage that you've been giving, because as you know, most of the mainstream media has not stepped up to do anything at all. However, on the sides of the road between California and here, it's got to be over 100,000 people that have come out. You've seen it, filling the bridges. You've seen it from the air. Ben Berkwam went up with us in the airplane. You've seen huge numbers of people on the ground, fire trucks, police officers flashing their lights and waving. We've had mostly really good support from law enforcement. So it's not like this has been a lonely ride. Not at all. It's been a huge adventure, to put it lightly. And it's only growing because now the voices are being heard. The efforts are coming to fruition. And a lot of that comes down to the posse here at War Room. I mean, you really helped wake people up, Steve. It's very important.
Michael, I tell you what we've tried to do also, and the reason I wanted to start the new show actually with somebody in the convoy has become a major, I think, political, I don't know if instrument, but become an event or an issue in this campaign, because this is working class people in full revolt. Particularly the people that are the backbone of the logistics change. Today on the show, we're going to go from polling in Pennsylvania. We're going to go down to Neil McCabe in Georgia about the stolen election. He's down there to talk to Raffensperger. He's got breaking news on Arizona, what happened to the precinct committee. And then we're going to talk to Tim Rathmune, who's running for governor out in Wisconsin, but is the tip of the spear into the decertification process. He's got some breaking news for us when we get to him, but I want to start with you. Michael, we made a decision very early on in this coverage, as I talked to you and Ben and other people. We wanted to leave the truckers alone. We wanted to leave the truckers because of the safety concerns, the security concerns. Let them take it all the way across country it was just amazing. And what I was most impressed with was the logistics, but the safety, the security. You're going to help us. We're going to start getting, now that they're kind of dug in Hagerstown, and I know they may have to move to other locations, but since there's dug in, and now it looks like senior elected officials are going to go talk to them. I think over the next couple of days, you're going to help us. We're going to get Mike Landis and some of the truckers up actually on the show and let them talk to us about what their task and purpose is. But as you see it right now, because you've been there at the beginning, I remember when we first talked to you, when you were coming up there, I think when you first got there, there was like 3 or 4 big rigs. And I was asking, I said, hey, Jan, you know these things better than I do. What do we got here? And you said, hey, I feel an energy, I feel a vibe, and something's going to happen, Steve. Just hang on. Now that they're there, Brian and Mike Landis and some of the leaders of the truckers, what is their attitude? What is their purpose? You know, the Democrats are saying, and MSNBC saying, hey, the mandates are over. You know, these guys can take credit, but the mandates changed because of the science. And now you've got a QAnon crowd. They're trying to tie bioweapons in Ukraine. There's all these crazy QAnon people. From the leadership's perspective, where do you think they stand right now? And what is their task and purpose?
Right now, obviously, the truckers want to be heard. Not just the truckers, there's many other people involved. In fact, the truckers are actually the minority in so far as the number of peoples that are out there. You know, there's, like I said, there was at least 100,000 people on the road between California and Hagerstown. And so, and most of those were in cars, or they followed us, or they were on the sides of the road and that sort of thing. And so we're down to the wire, Steve. Everybody can see the energy prices going up. Everybody knows that this guy, the resident in the White House, is not the president in the White House. We know that was a fake election. Everybody knows that. It's no brainer at this point. A lot of that thanks to people in the posse. And we can clearly see that the economy is coming unraveled. The truckers are extremely concerned. Obviously, their life revolves around fuel prices, the ability to deliver product. And so, and as do all of us, right? And so they're going to stay. We have no choice but to make our voice heard at this point. I mean, we're down to the wire. Nobody can just go home and continue like things are normal. They're not. As you well know, you've been warning for 2 years, Steve. That's why it's war-room pandemic. You were on the first 1% of 1% of calling this. You know what's coming. You know what's coming.
Michael, let me one more time. You know, they started off with, hey, we want the mandates to go. We want the mask mandates. We want the vaccine mandates. We can't make a living. This thing's ridiculous. Our kids have these masks on. There's one thing we are litigating the stolen election in Wisconsin, in Arizona. You know, we got McCabe down in Georgia today. We're going to talk to him about what's going on in Georgia. We got Tim Rathmune out in Wisconsin. There's already methodologies and modalities going out there right now of how we're going to get to the bottom of the decertification of this election. Is their mission when they say freedom? Because gasoline, you know, it's $7.55 in California right now. It's going to be $9 before too long. What is their purpose to say, I hear freedom, but that they have a specific ask? Is it to take away the emergency declaration that Biden had? Are there concrete asks that you think the truckers are going to present to whatever representatives go out there tomorrow? They're going to actually say, hey, this is what we demand until we go home. And until that happens, we're going to be here and we're going to be going around the Beltway.
Well, it's growing, Steve, because as you know, the situation is morphing. Certainly it started with, emergency orders and the mandates and the vaccination mandates and that sort of thing, you know, were very important. But now it's come down to, the fuel prices, of course, is going to put the entire country in a dire strait with fuel prices going up. Of course, you know, that means food prices going up, and people are just not going to be able to feed their family, including the truckers. Everybody knows that. And so, this is Steve, I mean, this is for all the marbles of anybody in the entire United States. You know that better than anybody. And the truckers know it as well, because they're the ones delivering the goods day in and day out. And they see the problems the shelves are going empty. The prices are going up. We just paid $4 a gallon to fill this tank up. And as you know, it's going to be more by the end of the week. And this is all the marbles. One of the problems that I see here that we need to rectify is most of the young people don't yet get it. They're about to get it one way or the other. but mostly it's people our age that are out here doing something. There are many young people, that's true, but not enough. We really have to wake up the young people to what they're about to face. Most of the young people haven't spent the years in communist countries that I have, or today there was a Cuban American at the rally. He came all the way up from Miami in his truck. I mean, you know how guys like that are. They're very anti-communist. The most anti-communist people in the world are the ones who used to live in that stuff. You know, the people that I saw in Darien Gap running away from Venezuela and that sort of thing.
Did I lose Michael?
Steve,
Michael,
I thought you were going
there?
to say something.
Yeah, no.
Here's
Here's what last thing, because we want to get Mike Landis and Brian and some of the truckers on, some of the leaders of the truckers. We'll do that starting tomorrow morning. I just hope this thing has been so peaceful, so organized, so pro-American, so pro-freedom. The people coming across with on the overpasses, one of the most inspiring things I've seen. The films you put together, John Spiropoulos, Ben Berquam, were just absolutely incredible. This thing has had such a positive impact. And clearly, the Washington, D.C., there's no doubt that the Biden administration moved quickly to get that off before the State of the Union. One of the reasons they didn't want to have this optic of working class people coming here is telling them to take it off and forcing their hand. But clearly they forced it. I just pray that people use their judgment, keep their heads. They're going to meet with some people tomorrow. But this thing has been peaceful, it's been positive, and it's been productive. And that's what we need to keep it going. Michael, we'll talk to you about getting hooked up with some guys. Now that they're in Hagerstown, I don't feel as uncomfortable as when they were coming across country, given all the problems they could have had. And I got to tell you, hat tip to them for pulling this thing off to come over, 2,000 miles, 2,200 miles safely. Jan, how do people get to your site to follow all the great reporting you're going to do?
Thanks, Steve. And many of the truckers are listening to you. So when you keep hammering these positive messages, they really do hammer home. It's very important. You can follow me on Getter, Michael Yon 1776. Michael Yon 1776 on Getter. And thank you for everything that you're doing and all the Americans who've been out waving and just saying hello and thank you and supporting the people that are defending the United States of America.
Jan, you take a couple of days to get sorted because I know you're coming back and dig in at Hagerstown with the truckers for the long haul. And yes, for all the truckers and everybody out there, we've got your back. You've just done an amazing job. And I got to tell you, this country owes you a lot. The spirit of freedom, the positive nature of what you're doing, it's just been absolutely incredible. I just can't say enough about it. Okay. We've got some, the Franklin and Marshall poll is out. They got some blockbuster numbers. But before I go to that, I want to go to Georgia. We got McCabe. And here's one of the things we did in launching this. John Fredericks Radio Network is obviously just bought a station in Philadelphia that covers Philadelphia, Delaware, and southern New Jersey. In addition, so we've partnered with John and we're going to help him with his rollout throughout the country as he goes to battleground states and buys these very important radio stations. But as importantly, we partnered with a guy I've known for a long time, Michael Patrick Leahy, the Star News Network. He's got 11 news sites, newspapers in key battleground states, including Ohio, Wisconsin, Michigan, Minnesota, Pennsylvania, Georgia, Arizona, Florida, Tennessee. It's just incredible. He's going to span to 20 by election day. But most importantly, he's got an incredible staff of very savvy professionals, and one that we've worked with for many, many years. Neil McCabe joins us now. He's a national political editor for Star News. He's going to be a guy you're going to see a lot on here. He's down in Georgia. I'll get to why you're down there in a second with Brad Roethlisberger, but I got to ask you, you've got some bombshell news. I don't think anybody else has reported. At least this first time I heard it was earlier when we were getting ready for the show. Tell me, what is your knowledge of what happened in Arizona? You had the exclusive interview with Dan Schultz last night. Walk us through your understanding of what happened in Arizona, sir.
It was absolutely incredible, Steve. Thursday, a bill was filed, passed, and signed by Governor Doug Ducey all in one day under special emergency authority. And this bill, it did a lot of things with election law, and most importantly for conservatives is it changed the way precinct committeemen are chosen in Arizona. And it basically was a gut punch to the so-called precinct strategy that Dan Schultz is trying to put out there. And so it changed the election of precinct committeemen to appointed by their county chairman, which basically it undermines the entire point of getting conservatives to take those slots. There's about 400,000 precinct committeeman slots across the country. Roughly 200,000 of them are filled, half conservative, half not conservative. And so what Schultz is trying to do is if you can get conservatives to fill those 200,000 empty seats, those vacancies, well, then the conservatives have a 75-25 margin on some of the most important local Republican seats.
But hang on for a second. President Trump comes out. We've been working on this thing for over a year. President Trump comes out last Monday, and Liz Harrington puts out a statement. President Trump, he supports it. Mike Lindell, we're up on Lindell TV right now. Mike Lindell supports it. They endorse it. 4 days later, there's an emergency legislation. And this thing gets passed, it gets passed, debated and passed, and then sent to the governor and signed in one day. How did it act? Because a lot of people are running away from this thing saying, I don't know how it happened. You told me you knew how it happened. Explain that.
Yeah. So what happened is this. I talked to Jake Hoffman, who's one of the most conservative members of the House chamber. There are two things that they did. First thing they did is all bills that are given to legislators for review are in black ink, where everything is saying the same from the old law, red ink when there's a deletion, and blue ink, all caps, when it's new language. And these guys, they're being jammed through with 80 to 100 bills a day. And so right now, they have to rely on these colors to know, so that they know what the changes are. What the leadership of the Republican Party did is they passed out copies of this bill where the changes for precinct committeemen were put in black. And I emailed that to you, Steve. I'm not sure if you got it, but it's plain as day in Section 4 that, so somebody who's skimming through one of 80 bills, right, they're looking for blue and they're looking for red. And they didn't see it, and so they went ahead. The second thing that happened is there was a whisper campaign.
Stop. Let's get to the first thing. That just didn't happen. How did that happen? Who was in control of the document? We got to get to the bottom of how this.
So Hoffman,
I'm telling you, it's not going to be easy to unwind this. And this gets to the core of the grassroots movement of taking over the Republican Party. So how did that happen?
Hoffman right now is in the process of tracking down who's the staffer who actually controlled the printing of this bill and who gave them the orders. And so I'll be talking with him tonight to see what he's up to. But obviously, these things were shaken down over the weekend. He was looking at stuff all day today. He has some answers. I'll have them tonight.
Okay. But the bottom line was this, what they're saying now is that this thing was in black and white. So nobody would focus on it. They would only focus on the blueprint or the red print like they normally do in a lot of these bills about the changes. So that means somebody at the senior level in a staff position working with the establishment controlling it did this. We got to get to the bottom of it because I'm telling you right now, she already delayed the vote till Wednesday. Delayed the vote till Wednesday. So I say this thing is going to be very tough to unwind. Hey, maybe I'm wrong, but I don't see Steve Ducey doing any favors for the Trump movement, any favors for the president. The reason he's not running for the Senate, he understands Trump's all over him because of the terrible job he did in 3 November. Now, I got to go to Georgia. You're down in Georgia. Sure. What do you haven't enough people interviewed Brad Roethlisberger? He just talked at that Principles Project here in Washington D.C. with Liz Cheney over the weekend. What do you hope to get by getting an interview with Brad Roethlisberger?
I want to know where his head is at because January 5th he said that he was going to have a statewide investigation using the truth. Can you hear me now, sir? Yeah. So January 5th, Rathmune announced he was going to initiate a statewide investigation based on the True the Vote probe that found more than 200 operatives basically dumped into drop boxes thousands of ballots. They have videos of it, and they were able to geolocate people's cell phones, and they gave that all to Rathmune. So Rathmune is saying, hey, I'm all with this. I was given legitimate evidence. I'm now going to investigate.
Star News Network is they're already in 11 battleground states. They have reporters there. They have data analytics. We're actually going to get their editor of the Philadelphia, the Pennsylvania paper is going to join us momentarily, and he is going to be there to talk to us about the polling that came out of Franklin and Marshall. In addition, we got this AM radio strategy that is, that is another thing that we're going to distribute this out. And so, in a combination with Star News and the AM radio strategy of John Fredericks, we're going to be able to grind this thing through, and we're going to take it, remember, down ballot. We're going to talk about secretaries of state. We're going to talk about school boards. We're going to talk about election officials. We're going to talk about the precinct strategy, how you join that. In addition, we are going to focus on the governor's races, the secretary of state's races, all these races that are so key, political. Okay, welcome back, Stephen K. Bannon, your War Room Battleground. Our initial show to kind of work out a few kinks. I want to thank everybody for tuning in, and every day at this time from 6 to 7, we're getting to the nitty-gritty around the country of how we're not just going to win a 100-seat majority in the House of Representatives at the federal level, but take back the country at every level, down ticket, down ballot, all of it. I want to go now to Wisconsin, and do we have Tim Rathmune up? I saw we had Tim up a second ago. Tim Rathmune out in Wisconsin. Tim, can you hear me, sir?
I'm happy to be on. Thank you so much for having me.
Look, you've been a leader in this 3 November movement. What you did with really getting this to the forefront of the stealing of the 2020 election in Wisconsin has been heroic. I know you've got some breaking news of what you're prepared to do and what's going to happen next week in Wisconsin. I really wanted our audience to hear it first. Can you walk us through what's going on?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir, I can. Well, thank you for the compliment. I work for the Lord first and foremost, and I'm really grateful that I'm surrounded by fellow patriots, grassroots people who are driving for truth as well. It's not just me, but thank you for the compliment. On the 25th of January, I put forth the privileged resolution to get my initiative numbered, which is AJR 120, and put into a committee. And ever since it was put into the committee I wanted it to be in, which was the Rules Committee, I've been asking for a hearing. I want to bring into a room the constitutional attorneys and the constitutional experts to have a discussion about why what I'm proposing is constitutionally allowable and is legal. The leadership in Wisconsin is refusing to take action. The majority leader calls it a fool's errand. The speaker is silent on it, says it won't happen. So what occurred after that was during a radio broadcast within the last 3 weeks, the speaker was asked if he would meet with constitutional attorneys and experts and have a conversation about the situation, and he agreed. So what they're going to do on March 16th, now this is confirmed at 10 o'clock Central Time, no cameras, no press, in a closed room situation per the speaker's request. They're going to meet and to have a discussion. Now, I've been asked to be there as well, and I plan on being there. There'll be a few other people there also, but I've been asked not to name them because we don't want to have anything happen between now and then regarding that information getting out prematurely. But I will tell you that the room will be full of individuals who are very intimate with the Constitution and who have justified the resolution that I have put forth as legal and proper to do. And it'll be a very interesting conversation. Right after that event at 10 o'clock, there is going to be a press conference held by the individuals who are running point pulling this together. Now, I'm involved in this, Steve, but I'm not running point by choice. I want other people to take lead on this, to get this to happen, to follow through at the meeting. We're then going to have a press conference for anywhere from 30 to 45 minutes. And after the press conference, per my request, as long as we have constitutional attorneys and constitutional experts in the Capitol building, I want to have that hearing. So we have a group of people asking for a room, which is apparently being taken care of. It's going to be facilitated by a fellow representative who I'm a colleague with in the Assembly right now, and I'll be in the room as well. But I want the hearing to happen between Ledge Council, Legislative Reference Bureau, and the constitutional people to have the hearing that the majority leader and the speaker don't want to have, and then we'll have probably another press release or press conference about the outcome of that event. And then following that evening,
okay, we're going to hang on, slow down. Before I get more process, I want to, if the speaker, the majority leader, or whatever, are saying it's a fool's errand, take 2 minutes and just walk this audience through, some of whom may have not seen your evidence. What is the overwhelming evidence that you have that makes this not a fool's errand? And let's leave aside the ability constitutionally to decertify. What is the evidence that you have that shows that the 2020 election was stolen in the state of Wisconsin?
Well, not in particular order. The use of drop boxes, which was approved by leadership, which was not legal at the time and wasn't not done by the body. It wasn't gone through rules. It wasn't done through due process. The leadership team allowed for additional drop boxes, and I believe it was 500, and a majority of them were placed throughout Democratic areas within the large city as part of the Wisconsin Five. The Zuckerbuck element, the $8.8 million spent in those 5 cities as well, broke the law from 12.13, which is election fraud, and it also broke 12.11, which is election bribery or state bribery. We also have the Racine County sheriffs who have uncovered evidence that fraud occurred within the nursing homes within the Racine County area, and they wanted to have charges prosecuted and pressed and prosecuted there. Now, you got to remember that the guidance that the Racine County nursing home elements embraced was delivered by the Wisconsin Election Commission. So they gave the same guidance to all 72 counties in the state, to all the nursing homes in the state, and the numbers I heard of people involved in that was like 91,000. The other item I'd like to mention is the Wisconsin voter database. It's fraught with errors and fraught with duplications and multiple cell numbers and multiple addresses. It's just not fathomable to have the information they have. There's 7.1 million names listed in this database, and only 4.5 million people are eligible to vote, and only 3.3 million actually did vote in the 2020 election. So there's more than twice as many names in this file that can be activated, and a ballot can be cast against them, and then that name can be inactivated, and no one will ever know the difference. So to do a recount won't give you the information. Forensic audit would, and it would be able to surgically deduce if the ballot ties to a name or not. So there's that fraud as well. And there's additional information coming from other sources too, but we have enough to ask the question. Fraud vitiates everything. The opportunity to ask to reclaim electors is allowable, it's legal, and it's constitutional, and that's what I hope we have conversation on Wednesday the 16th to get this thing to move forward, because I'd like to see AJR 120 moving on the floor and get passed.
Okay, hang on for a second. So you've got the evidence. Do Voss, the speaker, do they question the evidence you've come up with, or do they question just the constitutionality of decertifying the election? Because I know Judge Gableman had the appendix, and I understand some very smart lawyers wrote that about the constitutionality. But Voss and these other guys, is there concern that you haven't brought the receipts, or is there concern that, hey, even to bring in the receipts, it's too late? There's no way that you can really constitutionally decertify the Biden electors. Tim Rathmune.
My understanding is initially they were asking, where's the evidence? There's no evidence. There's no proof. When we started to show them the proof, then the goalposts got moved to, now you want to reclaim the electors. Well, that's not constitutionally allowable. It's illegal. And they went back to the alleged counsel and got an original memo from them they keep bringing back as the false veil of protection. The memo was written in early November before all the evidence came out. They wrote that information in that opinion, with the understanding that nothing wrong happened in the election. Well, a lot of wrong happened in the election. So that memo doesn't have standing anymore. And the 7 constitutional attorneys and experts I brought in my package rebunked that entire memo and basically blew it out of the water. So now they're saying it's just not simply constitutional, and they're embracing the original memo from alleged counsel. So, Steve, I got to tell you on a personal note, I believe it's a reluctance to admit that they're wrong. And I believe it's probably more of an ego thing for them to admit that they were wrong. And what makes it worse for them is now I'm a gubernatorial candidate, not their choice to be governor. And heaven forbid that they would have to say publicly that Rampton's been right all along, because it would give me a huge win. So I think that's what's in play here as well.
I want to go back to next week. Is this primarily to get the constitutional process going for the decertification? What is the objective next week, and what should people be looking for? Because all of us have said from day one that have been involved in this, that we believe that Wisconsin's the easiest to prove, because you guys have such tight voting laws up there, right? Limits on absentee ballots. You got the indefinitely confined, highly defined. You have no early voting. I mean, Wisconsin's pretty high and tight, and there were so many anomalies here that you could point to that you could prove it. Is there a problem? Is next week you're trying to push the part about the constitutionality of this all?
Well, to ask the speaker to meet and have a discussion was a really good move. And I think when you want to start to address obstruction in the process, you have to start with the individual who can make the biggest difference. It's not the majority leader or anyone else in the assembly, it's the speaker. So to get that activity confirmed and to have that happen is a big win. To get the conversation going and to get the understanding and clarifications out, it can't hurt anything at all. In fact, it's going to help everything. And I believe it will pave the way for the opportunity for further discussion and possibly and probably an action with AJR 120. That's the goal.
Integrity going forward. They want to see action on decertification in Arizona. They want to see action on decertification in Georgia. They want to see what's going on in Pennsylvania, our new station in Pennsylvania. People say, hey, the Supreme Court overruled it. What are you going to do now? In Wisconsin, they want to see action. They want to see action of this. If they don't see politicians out there at the cutting edge to force the action, they're just not going to show up. And I don't think the Republican establishment understands this. They keep talking about election integrity. We'll get them next time. People want to get to the bottom of exactly what happened and hold people accountable. One of the powers, and I want to make sure that we get up on our sites for the team, the report that Tim Rathmune and others came up with in Wisconsin. The Zuckerberg situation will make you blow your head up. I actually have talked to a lot of people who think that, hey, you could push forward with criminal charges here. So how do people find out more about it, and how do they find out about your crusade to make this happen? Because here's a warning to the Republican establishment. You're going to lose 5 to 10% of the vote across the board overall. This is what happened in Georgia. What happened in that runoff in Georgia is people didn't think that people had President Trump's back to decertify those electors, or at least give time down there to go through the certification process. And that's why Purdue and Loeffler lost. This was a simple fact of why they lost. The Trump base, you're going to have at least 10% not show up. And this is the difference between a red tsunami, right, and something where we pick up, 5 or 6 seats and maybe take a small majority. We have the opportunity throughout this country at the gubernatorial level, in the state legislatures, and particularly down ballot in secretaries of state, and all the way down to county supervisors to really break apart the Democratic Party as an institution. But it's going to come around the work of the Tim Rathmunes in the world. So, Tim, how can people find out more information? And are the people in Wisconsin rallying around this?
Well, gosh, a lot there, Steve. I will tell you without question, everywhere I go, I'm overwhelmed with support for not only the push we are giving to this subject matter and to get closure, but also support for my candidacy for governor. Your question is really good, though, on the notice regarding what happens on the 16th. This is a work in progress from 1 o'clock on for the day. And what I mean by that is the confirmation has been received by the Speaker's office and the group that's going to meet with him, including myself, at 10 o'clock on that day. And we're going to be in that room for at least an hour or longer, depending. Then we're going to have the press conference. What I want to advertise out to the people after this call and going forward is the hearing that we're going to have. It's going to be an informational hearing, so only the constitutional attorneys and legal people in the room will be asked to speak. But the public is going to be offered to attend, and hopefully they'll show up, and I believe they will. So that'll be the communication. So they're going to get to see firsthand what goes on in the room.
Okay, we're going to cover this wall to wall. I got to get back to Pennsylvania. Tim, what's your social media? How do people find out more about you and your campaign?
www.ramthunforgovernor.com. Everything's out there, and I'll put as much as I can regarding what's coming up. And I'll also put information that's state business related on rep.ramthun@legis.wisconsin.gov. And that's got a Facebook page and Twitter, and they both have Twitter feeds as well. So we're good.
It's important that people get into this report and study it. Tim, thank you very much. Out in Wisconsin, appreciate going to spend a lot of time with you and the folks out there between now and November 8th. Thank you, sir. I want to go to the managing editor of the Pennsylvania Daily Star, Bradley Vasola. Bradley, you've got this Franklin and Marshall poll which is a very solid poll done in Pennsylvania about, and one of the things we want to do on this part of the show is talk about local polling, not national polls. This poll shocked me, Bradley, because it shows that independents in Pennsylvania, only 25% approve of Joe Biden. Walk us through the highlights of this poll, which is pretty brutal to Biden in what he calls his home state.
Right. So in August, his approval rating among independents wasn't great, but it was significantly better than it is now. Is 38%. That's obviously declined to only a quarter of the voting population polled by FNM. And the poll is really riddled with bad news for the president. His approval rating among his fellow Democrats in Pennsylvania, for instance, obviously a crucial constituency, that was 78% 7 months ago. It's 58% now. And overall, 51% of Pennsylvania voters surveyed think that President Biden is actually performing poorly, whereas only 30% like the job he's doing. He gets particularly bad.
Let me ask you, the economy, the numbers on the economy, and we're going to get this poll, and you've got a new article coming up on the Pennsylvania Daily Star we'll put out. Obviously, his handling of the economy, the bottom's blowing out on this guy. As your coverage with the Pennsylvania Daily Star, what are you hearing from the people in Pennsylvania right now? Because this is the substrate of why we're going to run the tables in Pennsylvania this year.
Hearing a great deal about how he's out of touch. He doesn't understand that the inflation issue is the major pocketbook issue for Pennsylvanians. Now, I mean, on that point, when it comes to inflation, 61% of Keystone Staters polled by FNM say that he's not handling that issue adequately. Those who do number about 19%. It's not 20%. It's not quite 20%. And even on job creation, which Biden likes to talk up, only 32% like his record on that. He likes to talk it up. He talks about, the Bureau of Labor Statistics numbers have come out with some encouraging reports lately, but obviously people's pay is relatively worse because you have inflation making such an awful impact. And we're even in terms of those job numbers, we're certainly not back to a recovery of pre-COVID jobs numbers.
Tell me about the Pennsylvania Daily Star. We've got about a minute. Why should people go there? We're going to put the links up to it. We love what you guys in Leahy are doing, but why should people go to the Pennsylvania Daily Star?
Well, thank you. Yes. So we started in autumn. And we are very happy about the start that we've made covering the issues that Pennsylvanians care about, the economy, the state budget, and that's impact on taxes, spending, obviously election integrity. And we're at PennsylvaniaDailyStar.com, Twitter handle @PA Daily Star. And we're willing to cover the issues from an actual factual perspective, which is not what you always see. There are some good publications in Pennsylvania, but just a few. The Philadelphia Inquirer is not doing that.
Exactly. We know that. Hey, real quickly, what's your social media handle?
Yes, so my social media handle is @bvasoli, BVASOLI. On Twitter.
Bradley, great job. Great job. Everybody, we're going to push this article you just did on this Franklin and Marshall poll is brutal for Joe Biden. And this sets the tenor for how we can run the table. Bradley, thank you very much, managing editor of the Pennsylvania Daily Star. I want to thank everybody. But tomorrow morning we'll be back at 10 o'clock in War Room Pandemic. We'll be back here at 6 every day. We're going to take a special hour and grind down on local races. We're going to grind down on what's happening from the federal level in the House races. We're going to get very focused on down ticket races. We're going to have the people, the personalities, the issues, all of it that is essential to this red tsunami that's got to come in November. Remember, if this is to happen, we have to make it happen. It's just not going to occur by itself. The polling looks great. It looks fantastic. The sense of urgency, you can tell last week in Texas, in the primary, particularly the Hispanic Americans. The intensity was there. People are putting their shoulders to the wheel, but we have to drive this home. And this hour every night from 6 to 7 Eastern Standard Time, we're going to focus exclusively on what it takes in battleground areas and battleground states, from the Senate races to the House races to all of it. So until tomorrow, we'll see a War Room Battleground. Thank you for watching for our initial show. We'll see you back tomorrow morning at 10 o'clock with War Room Pandemic. See you then.